Peace, Black Power, Rahubat, and Hotep. I wanted to give my take on the Roland Martin, Umar Johnson interview with the three other, well, 2.5 coons. I think is necessary. I think the interview was necessary for mainstream to be exposed to someone like Umar Johnson. I think it was a great idea for him to be on shows like that, the same way, let's say, back in the day, Brother Martin did the same thing. You know, he went against the Uncle Toms of his day, the coons of his day, and you needed to see what a Pan-African really is. Shout out to Sister Neith Knight for also doing a video on the same subject earlier today. Much love to her and Houston Unity Tribe, HUT Hut. It is very important for the world, for black people, to find out what are laws and bylaws, or at least one credence of black nationalism and Pan-Africanism, and that is to not marry outside of your race. There shouldn't even this is what the funny part is, that this is still a peace. For now, how you doing, sister? A subject in 2017 amongst black people. I'm not talking about white people. I'm talking about amongst black people. That, catch this, that the individuals who enslaved you want to marry. The descendants of your slave masters, you're fighting to want to marry. That's what they're really asking him about. Just think about that for a moment. Every other race, let's say, we won't even talk about those who are with us, that the secret relationship of people that we have with are whites. I'm talking about immigrants. I'm talking about Asian American. I'm talking about Asian American. I'm talking about Mexicans. I'm talking about Arabs, white Arabs, red Arabs, whatever have you, Saudi Arabians, Iran, whatever. They don't have to go online and argue and fight over this at all. They don't. They're never told who they should marry. Why aren't you marrying a white person? Why aren't you marrying a black person? Why aren't you marrying an Asian person? Why don't you crossbreed? They're never told, why don't you crossbreed? Why don't you do something different? But black people are the ones asked, so why don't you want to marry someone out your race? And always remember, usually whenever you say this to people, let's say there's always a white person around, right? There's always a white person around. So you have to explain, think about this. You have to explain to a white person why you don't want to marry outside your race. Yet these are the same descendants who enslaved you and hung you from trees and did all types of heinous things to African people, but we have to defend what Pan-Africanism is to the same race who enslaved us. This is what we're dealing with. That's why I'm trying to figure out exactly why we're still arguing, but I realize why we're still arguing. You're having a difference in ideology. You have one person who puts, as Umar Johnson puts, race first. Then you have another total group of people who don't, who put religion first, class first. I'm talking about Negroes, the new Negroes, the Du Boises of today. They put ideology first. They put classism first, and they put, economic and what have you, or what your religion is. That's what they put first. You do not put race first. That's why if you look at the interview, a lot of the people who were, the coons, the 2.5. I won't say the other brother on the left. If you look at the interview, the one on the left was pretty much agreeing with Umar Johnson. I think they had to do that on purpose, because these are hand-picked Negroes, especially, Roland Martin. He's a hand-picked Negro. So those two, I think the funniest part for me was when he called the sister a coon. I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, wow, he said the word coon on national television. Because I get criticized for saying coon a lot. And he said coon on national fucking television. I thought that was awesome. Awesome. Because there's a separation, and he showed the separation. But the thing is, on the flip side, The two that was on the right side of the interview with Roland Martin with Umar, those two, the man and the woman, you had the real dark brother, and you had the sister. That represents a lot of black people. Truth be told, there's a lot of black people who want to marry with the slave masters, and they don't like black people who say that's not good. Again, you want to marry the descendants of the slave masters who are still benefiting economically of your enslavement, whether colonialism or slavery in the Americas. It's the same thing. Just make that make sense, black people. Why does the Negro want to still marry outside of its race and marry amongst a group of individuals who are still benefiting from your enslavement, even if it's prison industrial complex? How does that make sense? Why is it that I have to argue with someone who looks just like me on me staying within my own race? How does that make sense? Think about that. I also want to make a really good point too about Umar Johnson. Like I support Umar 100%. Don't matter what people say. The sexual situation really was none of anyone's business. I don't know how that happened or whatever. Who put it out there? Whatever. That's his personal business. Truth be told, it really is. Truth be told, also that I think he also represents a reality for a lot of black people that we really don't really want to see each other succeed or just one person successful. Because, when I was on Instagram, I posted, like, what's the main problem with black people today? We hate each other. It's self-hatred. We don't want to see one person, I'm not saying be accepted by white society, just being successful. We don't like to see success because success is like, like, how dare you? How dare you come out of that bucket? And I'm saying, like, damn. So Umar, to me, I can be Umar Johnson right now. I could turn around and say I need X amount of money for a Pan-African school here in Houston, Texas. And I will get the same flack. It doesn't matter. I said this to several people. I said, Umar Johnson is me. I am Umar Johnson. I'm not saying it like the Malcolm X. I ain't Malcolm X. But no, like, real talk. I could say, I'm trying to open up a community center. I create a GoFundMe account and I need help. Can you help me? I would get the same thing. That's why the whole sexual thing really has nothing to do with it. And a lot of people are falling on that. They're leaning on that to not to just say what they really feel, which is, I just don't like the nigga. I don't like Umar Johnson. He think he deep. He think he's smart. F him. That's how a lot of our people really see the situation, man. And that's what really pisses me off more is like if I say, well, I'm not going to stop supporting him. Every time he comes to Houston within, I would say, for the past 3 years, what did King Simon say? Your pops got the same fight back in the day. Yeah, exactly. It never stops. Every black man that tries to become successful and uplift African people, it's a problem. And so we want to turn around and, try to blame it on something else, but that's not the case. But that's the thing. It won't change. These are still covert signs of self-hatred. Because here's the thing. We have a lot of problems in our community. But as soon as someone says, well, let me just attack one of the problems, because one of our problems is we don't have our own institutions or enough of them. You have in Wally Rudy's Institution of Atlanta, you have Uhuru Academy of Dallas, and you have other Pan-African, I'm sure others, but we don't have enough. Because again, I tried to tell one sister Saturday, I'm like, look, our enemies are the ones who built and bought and built our black schools in our communities. So what is the point of trying to continue to stay in their schools when we can create our own? I don't want to hear the word of us being God, black woman's God, black man is God, but you can't build for yourself. And if someone tries to, all of a sudden they become extremely flawed. That's the thing. I think really it also is beyond the self-hatred of getting to a point where you're saying to yourself truthfully that I don't really want to leave white supremacy. I don't want to leave the white supremacist structure because then I actually have to be independent. Black independence really scares black people more than white people because they're ready for war. White people are ready for war. With black people, let's just say all of a sudden you get another Black Wall Street. Black people have seen what happened to the last Black Wall Street, so what are we thinking in our minds? We're thinking, shoot, we gotta defend it this time. So that means it's gonna have to be a physical defending, not spiritual, go sit and pray, chant it away. You can't chant bullets away, sister and brother. A bullet is not gonna miss you just because you chant to Shango to block it with the sword. That's not how that works. You know what I'm saying? Like African spirituality aids in your own fight, but it doesn't do the fighting for you. We have to be ready to do what we need to do. And the problem is the moment you start saying things like that, black people start swallowing. And again, we're the only race who is not ready. And you say, Ahmed Tanur, that's our problem, praying and not doing shit. Exactly. This is shit. I ain't gonna say shit. Well, I said shit now. But no, that's real. And if anyone says, because that scares black people, action truthfully scares black people. Even if it just comes down to a black man walking around his own neighborhood and picking up his own trash or picking up trash among the neighborhood, you got black people who are gonna be like, why are you doing that shit? Right? Why are you doing it? Why? They got groundskeep for our neighborhood. Why are you going to, I'm like, well, I live here. You got black people who will be tired, who don't like you doing things that is to them the non-social norm, which is doing things for yourself. This is what we're dealing with. True black self-hatred is to say, man, I ain't trying to hear that. I ain't trying to hear that. It's being satisfied with where we are. What did King Simon say? Even in the Nation of Islam back in the day, it's got to fight to set up their homeschooling in University of Islam. These type of things, it's crazy because our movements represent black change. Our African movements, black nationalist movements, regardless of which one it is, it represents a change. Black people don't want change. We don't. We like the idea of teaching, only thing constant is change, but when someone says it's time to change, I'm like, man, please. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what that's why King Simon, I look forward to our cleanups here in Houston, because you get to connect with the people. You get to see what you do the message for. And it's not to sound deep to the rest of your people, because that doesn't change anything. But going back to Umar Johnson, my thing is I want to continue, regardless of where he's at. I want to continue supporting Umar Johnson. I don't care. I totally get the whole thing about the girl and the sister and all that. I mean, with the sister, nobody else that we know about, but that's his business. You know what I'm saying? That's his business. It's crazy because I was looking at a Steve Coakley lecture from like 95 when OJ first got acquitted, and Steve Coakley invited OJ to come to his lecture, and I was like, man, Steve Coakley, you can't get no blacker than Coakley. So I don't like it when people are like, just separate from this, like the Colin Kaepernicks of the world. Like, you don't want to, all right, King Simon, shoot, let me know when you come, I'll be here. It's like we want to be black, but we need black people to be a certain type of way. And I'm not like, if our people need help and we know that they're not going to get help anywhere else but our own, then we have to embrace them. Truth be told, I truly think, and this is not, as far as I'm concerned, cooning, but someone like, let's say, Colin Kaepernick, person didn't choose who his mother was, but he's choosing exactly what the ideology is. That's what is Pan-Africanism is. You find someone that is like Colin Kaepernick, who is considered to be mixed, black father, white mother, but his ideology is helping African people, then I have no problem with him. Truthfully, I really don't. You know what I'm saying? But the problem I have is Steve Coakley was a god to me, man. Real talk, man. He really was. But the problem I have is when people like throw under the bus people who are actually doing something for those who are not. I'm like, I thought this was about productivity. If it's not about productivity, then what are we really doing here? If I'm not being productive in what I'm doing, but I get to sit back and talk about those who are, how does that make sense? It don't make sense. That's my point. How does that make sense? It doesn't. So you can make the choice that you want to say, you know what, forget Umar Johnson. He said he wasn't Frederick Douglass, this and that, this and that. And I'm saying, man, look, if he is, if he isn't, whatever, he's trying to build a black institution. Something that is totally separate from for anybody buying it for us and this and that. He's doing what he needs to do for us as a people, and that's what we need. I'm sorry. Truth be told, that's exactly what we need. We need something for ourselves. We always want to be latched on and stapled to white people and every other race except our own, yet every other race is doing for their own except us. We know what the problem is. We have to solve the problem. You can solve every problem in your house, but when it's time to deal with black liberation, all of a sudden now we can't solve our own problems. Amateur New Order said, right, who cares who he's related to? Yeah, I really don't care who Umar Johnson is related to. Who cares? I don't care. I want people at some point, I hate to say this, to not care if I'm related to Dr. York or not, because, I love my father and everything and have respect for him, but I don't like when I say something, it's a reflection of everything that he says, like I have to be a clone of his, because that's getting old. Like, truth be told, I represent him, but at the same time, I represent myself, and that's reality. But going back to the interview, it's funny how I saw what Roland Martin was doing. He threw out the Harry Belafonte question. Well, Harry Belafonte, he married white, and he did stuff for black people. But he married white, and he was trying to trip Umar up immediately to make him look like to make him contradict itself, which is a form of self-hatred. You're not even aiding him in what he's saying, because Roland Martin probably dates white women and has a white wife. That's what you do. When you want to marry the slave master's daughter or an enslaver, you do whatever you can to mess up a person that says that's wrong, because you look stupid. But just think about that. What Roland Martin did was go back to the old Negro Guard. You shove out the Negro Guard and you say to the world, like, this is what we're supposed to really be based on the perception of whites. We're supposed to be apologetic and docile niggas or Negroes, which really literally means the same exact thing. So, truth be told, I loved the interview. I thought it was funny. Again, there's only 18 minutes of it on YouTube. But I do advise our people to look at it. It gives you an idea of where are you, because most of us truly, as black people here in America, really are represented by the 2.5 on that panel, the sister and the dark skinned heavyset brother that was on the right. A lot of us really want to marry into whites. If it wasn't white, it could be Asian, it could be Hispanic. We don't want to be black anymore. That's why a lot of times when you ask a set of black people, what race are you, you get 10 or 20 different answers. We don't know how to answer that question, and that's because of white supremacy. It's confusing us in terms of racial identity. But at the same time, it's making us hide behind our desks so that we don't have to really face our reality. So I really urge people to go online and look at the interview, find out which are you, the two Negroes on the panel, or are you Umar Johnson? Just ask yourself that question. If it's like, well, it don't matter to me who you date or who you marry, it's like, yes, it does, and you know it does. You're the only one trying to do whatever you can to marry your slave master, your slave master's wife, or your slave master's son. Because whites, Asians, Arabs have all enslaved African people and are still doing it to this day. So how do you look going to the other side? Truthfully. So again, I side with Umar Johnson. I side with Umar's ideology. Do not go outside your race. My father taught about genetics of dealing with the Neanderthals, and we still want to go out and go away from that. Dr. Laila Africa talked about the fact, and this is him quoting, and I'm paraphrasing, that us marrying anything outside of Africa, anything outside of black, is physical and spiritual suicide. We know exactly what that is. So let's stop playing with ourselves and know where we stand politically, physically, psychologically, and economically. Because we really don't know where we are mentally, especially when we want to do something that makes totally no sense at all. You know. So again, peace. Just want to give you a brief discussion of where I stood with it. This is where I stand with it. So peace, black power, Hotep, and Wadu.